Now, back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
Hey, WFO, everybody. Joe Costello back with you. Thanksgiving week. Happy Thanksgiving. Don't be a jive turkey on Thanksgiving. That's what we always say. But we're going to get into it with a funny car winner from the Auto Club Finals, second in the point standings, Fast Jack Beckman, DSR, Infinite Hero. Great season. He's in the archive many times over the course of the year, and I want to remind everybody, like, if you want to go back and relive the emotions of a certain event, and you're thinking, like, what happened at that event? You can go back into the WFO Radio archive and pretty much find each race winner, and we put them through the ringer here at WFO. Like, what happened? Why did you do that? I feel like we ask the right and important questions. Some tough, some soft, but the necessary ones. And Fast Jack Beckman going to be up soon, but right now I want to tell you about the great sponsors. You know them. MagicDryUS.com, the official organic absorbent of the NHRA. They got spill kits with everything you need to clean up those big spills. All natural, made of coconut, lightweight to carry, absorbs 560% of its weight. MagicDryUS.com. Way to go, Scott Palmer. Thank you for supporting WFO Radio. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Formula One IndyCar, ProMod, Nitro, Pro Stock, Stock Eliminator, regular cars. Total Seal, the leader in ring seal technology. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed. Blockhead CNC programs. Got to break through to all you kids out there, you young people with the devices. You got to actually do something that you love, and you show up every day and you're thinking, like, I want to do this. And the people that are involved in the high-performance engine building, machinist business, CNC machining, they've got a good job. It pays them well. It can't be taken away. And the ones I know, they seem to really like what they're doing. Samtech.edu. Tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. The Dragster Adventure. It makes a great gift. There's a jingle in there somewhere. I'm not doing it, though. The Dragster Adventure. It makes a great gift for your dad, your mom, your kids, your loved one. The adrenaline junkie, the person who thinks that, man, I love going fast. I love doing stuff. Courses start at $399. It is an experience they will remember for the rest of their lives. And the course travels around the country. You guys know that by now. And finally, Marvin Rodak. Rodak's coffeeandgrills.com, hot sauces and spice rubs and all kinds of great grilling stuff. The other night I was grilling up some steaks and I wanted to take the internal temperature of my meat. And so what did I do? I whipped out the handy-dandy Marvin Rodak's meat probe temperature thermometer thing. And I got them perfect. I got it right on like 145 degrees. Mid-rare. It was awesome. Came out great. Everybody thought I was a genius. Am I a genius? No. Did I have the right tools for the job? Yes. And they were available at Rodak's, RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com. Talk to him. 817-924-6821. Hey, Marvin, I want to get some cool grilling stuff. What should I get? Simple as that. Thanks to the sponsors, Drag Racing Edge and EV3 Drag Racing. And don't forget to get your WFO Radio T-shirt, NitroFishRacing.com. Thanks to Bo Butner, Randy Lynn, and the whole folks at Nitrofish for putting out that WFO Radio Podcast 10th Anniversary T-shirt. We sold a bunch of them this year. I was always like checking in. Did we sell any shirts? Did we sell any shirts? And we did. We sold some shirts. Get yours before they're out, because then we're going to switch it up to something new. Simple as that. All right, let's get into it. Joining us now, the funny car winner at the Auto Club Finals, finished second in the point standings, Fast Jack Beckman. Jack, congratulations. Big win.
Much appreciated, sir.
When you look back at 2019, you finished second, single digits behind Robert Height, so there's got to be thoughts about like what might have been yet and still a very successful season for you and your team.
Yeah, there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas, and I know every team and every driver does that. I think we were in something like 7 finals this year, and we had a great car. We runner-up at the Winter Nationals, and then we closed the deal with a win at the finals, and for me that's extra special. Pomona's my home racetrack, and I got my only 2 sportsman wins at the Winter Nationals in 98 and in 2003. I'd never won the finals, and I'd never won at Pomona in the Nitro car, so that's fantastic. And then you got 2 months to kind of relish in the fact that your team just won the last race of the year.
That is an excellent point. Wow, you're really good at Pomona. Your 2 sportsman wins, both at the Fairplex. That's pretty impressive.
Well, but I think that's also a function of I didn't travel much in my Super Comp days, and we got 2 hits a year at Pomona, whereas most places you only get one shot at it. So, no, it was kind of, think about this. If you're a Southern California native, well, wherever you're from, if you're a Florida guy, Gainesville's the place that you'd most like to win. If you're a Midwest guy, Indy's the place you'd most like to win. Now that I've won Indy, I understand the allure of Indy. But before that, man, I'm born and bred in Southern California. Been going to the Winter Nationals since the 70s. And, the finals since it was at Ontario, then moved to Orange County, then settled at Pomona. So to me, those are the big races. Those are the ones in my backyard attached to the strongest memories from childhood.
Amazing stuff. So, countdown, pressure-packed rounds, thinking about the day that was. There are so many different things I could ask you about, but I want to focus on your race and your category. That second-round matchup against J.R. Todd, like you were in a situation where every round you had to win if you were going to keep your championship hopes alive up until the point that, Robert won the semis, which we can talk about that in a minute, but what's it like, racing in those conditions where you're watching your guys knowing that a loss means final elimination, not just from the race, but from the season?
Yeah, and I just got beat the race before in Vegas on a hole shot in the semis, and I lost on a hole shot in St. Louis in the countdown, and those things sting, but you can't make yourself try harder to make up for lost ground because you won't do better. It's a weird scenario where you almost have to step away from it and just distance yourself from the situation. Like you just treat it like it's a qualifying run and you're already solidly in the show. And, man, trust me when I tell you, that is easier said than done. And I do a whole lot of self-talk and a whole lot of remembering conversations Frank Hawley and I have had, the stuff we teach at the school, and then just Frank and I's friendship over the years where if you've taken the time to prepare and you've got the skills to do something well, stressing or worrying about it not only is not going to make you do better, you're going to be worse at it. And I kind of proved that at 2 races in the countdown. So I was pleased that I kind of found myself again at Pomona, and I thought I made 8 good runs down the track, counting qualifying, at least from the driver's standpoint.
In the end, though, Robert Hight did what he had to do to become a 3-time champ, taking down Matt Hagan in the semifinals to go to the final round. In a weird way, though, he clinches the championship, but not really because he's got a race against you and not cross the center line. He did a monster burnout, and the car stalled, and he had to get out of the car. Give me your version of just what's that like, because he was way down there, and his car was kind of certainly closer to the center line than it was to the wall, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's got to be really challenging for you to put it through the uprights between the wall and the car.
And apparently there's a whole lot of conspiracy theorists online, and I don't go online. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. It doesn't mean you need to share it with the world. I completely believe Robert and Jimmy, and I kind of applaud what they do. So the scenario is there are points penalties for crossing the center line, not for hitting the wall. That would just disqualify the run, but you wouldn't lose points. But if you cross the center line or hit a track fixture, the cubes out there, which we seem to call cones,
Thank you, Jim.
Not only
Thank
would it disqualify the run, you would lose points from that. So they couldn't do that. I mean, do you go out there and just race for it and let the chips fall where they may? In a perfect world, yes. And I kind of hope NHRA addresses that for next year so we don't run into a situation like that where the team just literally can't afford to run their car down the track because they could lose the race and the world championship in one run. So Robert never starts up before us. Robert backs up super fast. So in a normal run with him, we'll start our burnout. He'll start his burnout. He'll pass me on the burnout, back up and pass me again, and then we wind up staging about the same time. So the first thing that was odd to me was he rolled out there way in front of me to start his burnout, and it seemed like he never lifted. I'm like, well, that's interesting. And the last time that happened to me wasn't that long ago. It was John Force, I think 2 years ago, when Brittany had just locked up the Top Fuel Championship, and Force does this big celebratory burnout because his little girl just won. And they had even told us before the races, I don't even care about the race. I just want to do a big, long burnout for my daughter. So in my mind, I'm going to get a single against Force, except he comes backing up at 150 miles an hour. I'm like, damn, he's going to race us, and he did. So this is playing in my mind until I see the roof hatch open on Robert's car. Right about the time I get done backing up, pull forward, and our body comes up, he pops out the roof of his car. So my first thought is, we've got a single. And then I keep looking at his car. Mind you, there's 4 of my crew guys making last-minute adjustments to the fuel and the idle on my car, so it's hard to see everything, but I never see anybody go to push Robert's car out of the way. Guido goes over and talks to the starter. Starter radios the tower, says, okay, you guys can run. I look at Guido and kind of shrug my shoulders. He points at me, says, be safe. I give him the okay signal. I just thought, okay, if the thing wiggles at all, we're going to lift. But I really couldn't imagine from the fans' perspective. First, you see a car do a smoky burnout, awesome. Then it stalls, not so awesome. Then you see the car in the other lane idle down the track. I mean, that would be so uneventful. So I thought, okay, let's see if we can give him a decent run. And we wound up running low ET of the day. So everything ended well for us. And for the conspiracy theorists, Robert's car definitely was more towards the center line than the wall. I've done long burnouts in a funny car before. When you lift off the throttle, you lift because you can't see because smoke's filled the cockpit. Well, it's 5 seconds before any of that smoke clears enough that you can see. So whichever lane you're in, you're going to angle away from where you think the wall is so you don't scrape the wall coasting out from the burnout. So I believe everything he said. It would have been nice if the car would have been pushed over, give us a little bit more clearance, but everything ended up fine, and I think the fans actually wound up getting a good show.
I agree. I talked to Jimmy after it was over. He, in the moment, we now have updated news. He's like, I came up here to race. I really don't know what that was. And then Robert said that he didn't even tell Jimmy. He just did a long burnout. He didn't really think that the burnout was going to cause a problem, et cetera, and so on. Kudos to you for getting it through there, though. That is not something you're used to. That's not a situation that you can practice, right? Car sitting out there on the center line.
Right. No. And it's obviously something you wouldn't want to do on a regular basis, but I'm going to say his car was, 3 feet over from the center line, and I've knocked down cones twice in my career, but I've never been that far out of my lane. So in 2,100 runs or whatever, I've never been in a situation where I've been far enough over that I would have made contact with where Robert's car was. Now, that being said, you can't be silly out there. We've already won the race. If the car does anything funny in the shake zone, that's where you're starting to apply the clutch and the timing back in, and that's typically where the car is either going to shake the tires or start to spin. I'm going to step off right away. Pomona's a very tricky racetrack. Vegas can be that way. Dallas can be that way. They have their own personalities. They tend to push you one way or the other. They've got a bump here or there you've got to navigate. So it's never like you're relaxing while you're driving a Nitro funny car down the track. But when you get to a place like Pomona, I think you give extra reverence for what these cars can do in a short period of time. So I wasn't going to take any inordinate chances on that. But you know what? Again, our Infinite Hero Dodge goes right down the lane. 392, low ET of the day, and I think we kind of put an exclamation point on a great day and a good weekend.
You really did. No, your math was absolutely correct. When we look back at the Auto Club Finals now, really just a lot of stories, some may be negative in terms of what happened in Top Fuel with a physical confrontation. But other than that, really just discussion points, and that one is included. Like Robert's car stalling, you going out there, low ET of the meet, and win the race and give the fans a show. Now, that rule, though, I think it needs to be changed immediately. My personal deal. Like, we can't have all this weird math. We're counting. Nobody can do math, period. Now we got to do championship math on the fly. That's not good.
Yeah, and I hope they're looking at it. And in credit to NHRA, and I don't know that my suggestions and outspokenness over the last 10 years have had anything to do with it, they're going to make some tweaks to the countdown format for next year. It's not as many tweaks as I'd like to see. I still think there are better ways to do it. I understand why we're doing it this way because at the end of the day, look, all the championships came down to Sunday at Pomona. The fans got their money's worth. I guess that kind of underscores the countdown did what it was designed to do, and that's increased drama. But on the centerline infraction points penalties, now that just went into effect recently. And unlike oil down points penalties, it remains in effect through the countdown because it's a safety issue. So I think maybe what we need to do is next year at the finals, there's no points penalties. There's still going to be monetary fines. It's still a safety issue, and we still want to slap somebody on the wrist if they're having an issue out there. But let's make it easier so we don't need somebody with a PhD in mathematics to calculate the points scenarios, because literally Top Fuel and Funny Car came down to potential issues for Torrance and Height if they lost the round and they crossed the center line. And in Height's case, it basically handcuffed them to the point that they couldn't run their car in the final. It wouldn't have been a prudent decision. So maybe next year we say for the finals, we're taking the points fines off, or the points penalties off the table.
I agree with that. Or for the countdown, or whatever you drivers agree upon, but you got to make it easy on the fans and the broadcasters. Like, is he the champion now or not? Yes, but he's got to wait to find, like, that's not good for the sport.
Well, a good example is in qualifying at Maple Grove, which was the first race of the countdown. John Force lost 15 points because it's the third time, I believe, in the season that he had taken out a cone. So, but that was easy to calculate because you still had 5 races left after that, and at that point it really wasn't going to change the posture of the championship scenario. But going into Pomona, I agree. It's just going to get too convoluted if you've got to figure those potential point losses into it.
All right, so you had me, and now you've lost me again. Are they blocks? Are they cubes? Are they cones? Let's lock it in right now.
That's why we're just... Well, I don't know how we can give it 110%, right? So apparently our math is just not good in drag racing, and our geometry isn't either.
No.
You know why they're cones, Joe?
Why?
Because in the old days, when they used to have the light fixtures on the center line, they put cones there so the funny car drivers would know exactly where to hit for the expensive equipment. So when they did that too many times, they figured out, let's move everything outside the wall and put these cheap foam blocks up, but the vernacular stuck.
Well, a block is a block. A cube is a cube. A cone is something totally different. I think we can all relearn this, Jack. I think we have what it takes to relearn that they're blocks, not cones. But I get it. Old habits die hard.
Yeah, as long as you give it 110%, you can figure that out.
Exactly. So looking back at the rest of we had a great conversation earlier this year, which is in the archive, everybody. And Jack, we were talking about the countdown, and I'm a big advocate because of what happened this weekend. Like, I loved this. This was great. Everybody is still talking about NHRA drag racing in the Auto Club Finals. How often does that happen, Jack? Rarely. But the points that you made in that discussion were really strong, really strong points. And very few people have gotten me to the point where, like, wow, man, this guy made some really great points about the countdown and how it affects participation. That having all been said, this race is one for the ages, right? Like, give me your thoughts. Were you able to keep track of the other classes? I know you do on a regular basis. Torrance and Cam Ferret and Brittany and Doug and all these things that went down.
Well, okay, let's start at the top with Top Fuel. What Steve did to Cameron, I guess Steve shouldn't have done to Cameron. But let's also keep something in mind. We're all human beings out there. NASCAR, they fight regularly. And you know why? It's because their cars touch each other. They block. They do things on the racetrack that affects other drivers. Drag racing, we don't fight very regularly because the only place where you can screw with somebody is on the starting line. And Steve has his points on that. Cam has his points on that. Steve didn't hit him with a baseball bat. He didn't swing his helmet into him. He shoved him. And I got to tell you, I thought Cameron's response on TV raised his stock up 150%. I think at the end of the day, there's a whole lot of people who know who Cam Ferret is that may not have before then. Steve's going to get a fine. I guess he's going to go to class for this. Time will tell if that changes him as a person. I don't condone fighting, but once in a while you run across somebody that needs to be slapped. Now, I'm not saying that towards Cam. I love Cam, and I don't think he did anything wrong. From what I watched up there, I think everything he did was well within the rule books. My point on someone needing a slapping is it's not a terrible thing for our sport to see some human emotion once in a while. But you know what? You better not see it out of somebody that's representing a big sponsor and they don't like that sort of shenanigans. Steve can get away with it because it's his family company on the side of the car. Jack Beckman couldn't get away with that. I represent injured veterans and all the other organizations on the side of our car. It's bigger than me when I get in my uniform.
Yes, and I love hearing you say it that way. For a slap, it was a shove. We've gone over it, and in the end, like you said, it's like, what scale are we using here? The NASCAR fight scale. This thing doesn't even really register. I wouldn't even call it a fight. It was a little bit of a skirmish, really, but. For so many years, the racing fans have been saying, like, oh, we really want the drivers to be able to be themselves and express their emotions. And the drivers have all said, like what you just said, it's like, hey, man, I would love to show my emotions, but I represent other people when I go to the starting line. And so I got to keep them in mind. I thought in the end, it was what it was. You got a family-owned team out there whose emotions are always right on their sleeve. Same with Cam, by the way. I don't want to call it a win necessarily, but it's definitely something that keeps people thinking about drag racing for the next couple of weeks.
Well, sure. And listen, I think the sanctioning body has to say, we don't condone that. We're going to come down firm on this. But I honest to God think in the boardroom, there's some elbow touching and winking and high-fiving going, man, that's great for the sport. It's going to get us a lot more recognition. It shows our competitors are human, that our folks can get wound up about what happens, even if there's only two cars out there. And listen, I'm going to say here's going to be the proof in that, Joe. Will they show that clip ever again in the 2020 season? And if they don't, I'm wrong.
Yes. Well, you mentioned earlier that you don't go on the social media, which is such a good thing, Jack. You have no idea. Don't get me wrong. I like my Facebook feed because I can go back and see 10 years of wonderful photographs of my life. But really, there's a lot of negativity on there, and it's unfortunate, and manipulation, et cetera, and so on. But there are people who say they'll never watch the sport again because of the vile way that these guys handled themselves. And I don't believe those people.
Well, no, and I don't know where these people live, and they get to vote. And listen, we all get overly emotional about certain aspects of our life, but that's where the 24-hour rule comes in. Don't type it on the keyboard, put it out on the internet for everybody to see forever. Because honest to God, I don't care where you had lunch, and I don't care what your opinion is of the way Steve Torrence walked over to Cam Ferret. It's okay to have an opinion on the actions that took place, but people will break down the minutia to such insignificant levels. It's like, guys, get on with your lives. Go get the lawnmower, get out in the backyard, and get away from this for a minute. However, at the end of the day, isn't that exposure for our sport? And isn't it one of those deals where they say any kind of publicity is good publicity?
Yes. Well, that's it. What you just said, I used to do, I mentioned this to Alan, I'll mention it to you. It's part of my life. This is my experience and how my opinions are formulated. I used to work in sports talk radio for a while, like a considerable period of my working time. And so this kind of thing is why the NFL is as big as it is. It's not just the game that people talk about. The game is maybe 20% of what people talk about. People talk about the contract negotiations and who is right and who is wrong and the beefs between players and the beefs between teams and who calls out so-and-so and challenges his manhood and respect and all that stuff. And people are constantly calling and, would you say, breaking it down to the ultimate minutia? That is how Stephen A. Smith gets paid and all these people get paid. And we're seeing it now in the NHRA. Do we like it? Do we not like it? Is it good? It's bad? I can tell you what, more regular, casual people will watch if this stuff happens on a semi-regular basis.
I kind of feel like let me put it to you this way. I've talked to some people whose opinions I highly, highly regard. Just wonderful people that have been around the sport for 50-plus years. And they were much more negative on their opinion of Steve's actions than I was. So you start to, I think if you're a thoughtful human being and your opinion isn't in line with those opinions that you respect, you question your opinion. And I question mine, but I tell you, I come to the conclusion that, again, he didn't take a cheap shot at, well, it was a little bit of a cheap shot. He didn't punch him, he didn't scratch him, he didn't bite him, he didn't hit him with his helmet. There was no injury inflicted on anybody other than potential embarrassment. But if I'm Cam, I'm not embarrassed at all. I got a chance to do a great interview and give people a little more insight into me. If I'm Steve, yeah, maybe I'm embarrassed somewhat. I certainly got to cough up some money. I think that kind of stuff in the long run is going to be better for ratings. Now, does that mean I condone doing that every time we get out of a car? Absolutely not. In other words, I'm a gray area guy. You can take something like that way too far, way too often. But is it okay if you disagree with a guy to go up there and poke him in the chest and say, that's not cool? Sure, that's showing some emotion up there. And at the end of the day, I think it boils down to not just what kind of character you have, but how much self-restraint you have. Again, are there times that I've wanted to get out and shove somebody? Yeah, but it doesn't take much for me to realize Don Schumacher signs my paycheck, and I represent a lot of companies that probably wouldn't benefit from me acting that way out there. I'm at work. I can't do that at work. I could do that on my personal time if it came to that. But, living proof is, Whit Bazemore doesn't have a job anymore, and there's a guy that thought he could do and say whatever he wanted. And finally, at some moment in time, he became a liability to the sponsor, so it could certainly be taken too far.
Well, exactly, and that's the thin line that everybody's got to walk. Now, what about Pro Stock? You're a Nitro guy, but you also have Sportsman World Championship, so you have to be connected to the Sportsman racers, and ultimately Pro Stock at some level, the Greg Anderson, Erica Enders ladder manipulation gate, right? Which I think is great.
Yeah,
I thought it was fantastic.
And I talked to Erica. Erica was a student of mine. I love her. I respect her. I think she's an absolute badass out there. And it sounded like her reaction on TV, she was taking it kind of personally. And I told her, I said, you can't let that stuff get to you. And also keep in mind, what Greg did not only is 100% legal. Now, it's one of those things. By the letter of the rule book, he's not doing anything wrong. By the intent of the rule book, maybe he is. But listen, in his situation, it's the last possible act that he's got. I thought it was brilliant, and I couldn't believe it worked. It was stunning that the odds of that backfiring were heavy, and he got away with it. And Erica gained her composure and went back out there Sunday and did her thing. Greg made a run that would have beat, I think, nearly every other car in that round, except Erica has a 17 light and runs right down there and hits all of her shift points. I'm not saying Erica's the best driver in Pro Stock. I'm saying I don't think anybody else in Pro Stock is better than Erica. Obviously, Jeggy is a phenomenal driver, and there's 3 or 4 others that are just fantastic out there. But there's nobody better than Erica. And, she won 2 world championships, then all of a sudden they took away all her horsepower with a design change there. And that's a tough deal to be at the top of the heap and then come out there and be non-competitive a couple of years, and she stuck it out, and she's back at the top of the heap again.
So she was your student?
Yes, when she was 16, she came through and got her Pro Stock license. And her father, Greg, I'll see him maybe once a year, and he always says, man, you did such a great job with her. And I said, Greg, she did a great job with her. I said, I've had a lot of students that aren't that good at drivers. I'm not taking the blame for them. I'm not taking the credit for your daughter. She just has a talent and a tenacity to keep pushing it.
And this is where I tell the audience that Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School is a big sponsor of WFO Radio, and you should go on the Dragster Adventure with Frank because it's amazing at frankhawley.com. But seriously, though, Jack, that's pretty incredible in that you've had this fantastic career yourself, and we know you're an instructor at the Hawley School. But now thinking about the imprint that you've had on certain racers, Courtney, Brittany, Ashley, yes?
Robert. Height, Alexis DeJoria, who's going to be back next year.
Like, that's incredible. Like, that's another layer. You get a lot of credit amongst people in the media for being a very strong drag racing personality, and your intellect is incredible. But now the people that you've helped kind of along, they're amassing amazing resume material. To me, I will say that Erica is the best, just because you mentioned Jeggy and all, but right now Erica has got the emotion going, and the way she concluded this year was incredible. And that round 1 matchup against Greg Anderson, that's all you could ask for in a drag race.
Well, and especially there's a lot of drivers. Doug Coletta would come to mind, who just doesn't seem to be emotional. Seems like you could smack Doug Coletta with a 2x4 or hand him a lottery-winning check, and he'd kind of have the same attitude and go out and get in his race car. And then there drivers like Erica, you can see when they get emotional about stuff. So to be that way and still be able to channel it in the car and be as consistently, I was about to say consistently good, to be as consistently great as she is, I don't even know that I want to say that's a gift, because I think that that's something that some people have a little bit more of than others to begin with, but it's something that can be harvested and improved upon continually, and she seems to be able to do that.
Did you know that you've trained a lot of drivers, and you listed all have got multiple championships, et cetera? Robert, like, wow, that's weird. You come in second to a guy that you trained, and he's got 3 championships, and he's one of the faces of our sport, and our sport is succeeding and failing because you and Robert are doing good things and being entertaining out on the track for the past 5 years, and hopefully for the next 5 years. But when you dealt with Erica, did you see something special within her that maybe led you to believe this girl could go on to amazing things as she has?
Yeah, it's easy in hindsight to change history, right? So I'm trying to be intellectually honest with you on your question. And at the Hawley School, we've got 2 days with the students, and the average group of students probably about 14 students, and we spent a lot of time in the classroom and then on the racetrack, and we watched videos. I had not watched Erica's Disney movie when she came through, and she was fresh out of juniors. So to be completely clear with you on this, it's really tough to look into the crystal ball. You could see that she was young and exuberant and loved drag racing. So those are 3 pretty good indicators that she's going to at least pursue this. Had no idea she was going to be this good. And in fact, she got in the gentleman's name is escaping me. It was a Ford Pro Stock car several years after she got out of the school, and it just Jim Cunningham, yeah, and it wasn't a competitive car. Jim didn't have the budget, and you say, well, good for her. She might drive a funny car at some point in time, and she's kind of trying to find a competitive ride. Did I know she's going to be a 3-time world champion in Pro Stock? No, because really she's kind of busted down the walls through anybody's highest expectations of her, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, she can do anything, and now there is no lady racer with more championships in the NHRA than Erica.
Yeah, her and Angel, I think, right?
And Shirley,
tied.
the 3. They all have 3.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, yes. 77, 80, and 82 for Shirley, right? We can't take that one away.
No, without a doubt. I just find it interesting now that you revealed that you were an instructor for Erica. I think I like to tie those storylines together. And then, Pro Stock Motorcycle, that was just a gut-wrencher, right? Like the racing gods.
Unbelievable. You couldn't pay me enough money to have been Andrew Hines on Sunday. Literally, all he has to do is beat Gianna Salinas in the first round, who he's a 10th-and-a-half quicker than, and he is the Pro Stock Bike world champion. And staging a Pro Stock motorcycle is the hardest thing to do in drag racing, period. You have shoes that are on a sticky track, and you sit in a very uncomfortable position, and you're trying to baby step this thing up to stage as shallow as you can so you can run the best possible ET. And when he squeezes the throttle to wide open, the bike just rocked back 1/8 of an inch and unstaged him, and he goes red. It's like, okay, it's no big deal, because all I need is for Matt Smith and Jerry Savoy to not make the final round. And you go, ooh, but that's Matt Smith and Jerry Savoy to not make the final round. All of a sudden, his chances of winning the championship maybe go down to about 50% or less. And Matt Smith breaks in the semifinals against Gianna Salinas, a bike that he was 0.2 quicker than the round before. Okay, so now when Jerry Savoy, who was low ET, I think, of one of the rounds out there, beats Gianna, he's going to be the Pro Stock Bike champ, and his bike breaks in the finals. Oh, and did I mention that Steve Johnson's bike broke in the second round against Gianna? You want to talk about a lady in the right place at the right time, and I could not have been more happy for her, but I would not have been Andrew Hines on that day. I can't imagine the anguish and the stress to literally sit around all day long, and the scenarios for you to stay the points leader are about 1 in 1,000 at that point in time.
Yeah, horrible. What about that, Jack, the racing gods? I say cosmic forces, racing gods, whatever. The thing that's out there that puts people through the grind. I'm sure you've experienced it, and when it's your day, it's your day. Like Gianna had the most unbelievable of days. She's a winner, right? Whereas Andrew had to deal with anguish, but then ultimately was rewarded. That's something about our sport that it's really hard to quantify, but it is out there and it is real.
Yeah, but you know what? People say I'll take luck over skill any day of the week. But what they mean is, luck prevails well, let me rephrase it. Luck doesn't prevail when your car's leaking oil because your crew doesn't tighten the valve covers and they mix the wrong level of nitro, so you're going to fail fuel check there. You still have to do your whole checklist correct. You still have to drag a vehicle up there that's capable of running good. And then once in a while, you're going to have some bad luck and it's going to bite you in the butt. Andrew Hines' bike backing up. That's kind of a fluky deal. And then once in a while, you're going to have some good luck. Gianna Salinas, Jerry Savoy breaks against her in the final, and win a race maybe you shouldn't have. But to have it 4 times on the same day, I mean, you're going to have to go back to the record books and see when is the last time somebody in a pro category literally almost could have idled down the track 4 times and still been handed the trophy.
Yeah, I have no idea, and that's a Louis Bloom special that he may or may not have the access to. I'm surprised you don't have that just committed to your memory, Jack. With the
I'll bet Louis had it 10 minutes later. And let me tell you, I'm not taking anything away from Gianna. You want to talk about a gal with some resilience? What a wonderful story 2019 is for her. Big nasty crash, and to have the chutzpah to get back on that bike. And there's another female with some incredible drive and determination to prove that she's capable of doing this. So I know to her, she's going to say, okay, we got our first win. But that win was a lot of luck. Now it's time to get our first win where we go out there and just flat beat 4 people.
Totally agree. Jack, looking back, I appreciate you taking half hour with us here on WFO, giving us your, race win and also season debrief. Thanksgiving coming up. I got to see your El Camino. I think it was awesome. Any final, words for the WFO universe out there? People listen to the podcast, obviously respect your opinion as we wrap up this 2019 season. Was there something that stuck out in your mind that you wanted to comment on or, a thought that you might have?
I'll have to congratulate Jimmy Prock and Cunningham and all the crew guys with Robert Height. I mean, with no countdown, they handily win the Funny Car Championship. The countdown reset made the points totally thrilling on that one. Ask Andrew Hines. Guy wins 8 races and barely wins a championship because of the countdown. So congrats to all the champs. I mean, here's a situation where everybody that was crowned the champion this year completely and totally earned it because the countdown can kind of tend to throw that stuff out of kilter. But look out for us next year. I mean, our Infinite Hero team, we were great when we needed to be great. I need to step up my game a little bit for next year. It's just become cutthroat on the starting line right now in Funny Car. With 1,000 foot and so many cars running close together, we got Alexis coming back, so that's another competitive Funny Car. Looks like Langdon's going back over to Top Fuel to give them hell for another year. It's going to be another one that's where the winners are the fans, and I'm still a fan, so I can't wait. We did not preseason test last year. We sent one Funny Car and one dragster from DSR to minimize some of the budget issues there. And I want to be the Funny Car that goes in preseason tests early next year because I can't wait to get back in.
And are you going to get there in your new Hellcat whatever?
I am, so I get free use of a Hellcat Charger for a year. And when they first told me that, it's like, oh, gee, that's kind of cool. Yeah, but I've got a Ram pickup. Where am I going to put the Hellcat? When would I drive it? And then they sent me a link. They said, well, go online and start looking at colors. And so 2 days ago, I drove down to the local Browning Dodge and looked at the colors in their lot. I am getting so damned excited now. Christmas has never been so cool. I don't think I'm going to get that thing until February. In fact, I hope I get it in time to drive it to the Winter Nationals. I am so excited. I don't know if they're going to get pissed if I put surfboard racks on the roof or not, so we'll have to find out.
From what I understand, you can do what you want. Just keep the rubber side down. Tommy Johnson drove that thing all over the place, and now you get it. All right, which way are you leaning color-wise? We have to live vicariously through you. This is not going to happen to me. What are you doing?
I'll tell you, not a color I would ever have picked out, but I saw a video of Hellcat Day up at Sonoma.
Yeah.
So this is, they call it octane red, and picture it's almost a candy red with 2 silver stripes on it, which sounds absolutely horrible, but when you look at this car, it pops, and it's a little subtle and a little bit screaming, hey, guys, I'm here. I love that color combo. I think that's the one for me.
I see it right now with the silver stripes. I love it. I totally advocate Octane Red. That is my favorite of the FCA colors because let's call it what it is. It's candy apple red, okay? It is amazing. Jack,
love it.
Thank you so much.
They do have a purple
Yes?
I already drive a purple Charger, so don't have any haters out there, okay?
Yes, don't worry about that. They love you, Jack. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, Jack, to you and your family all year long. You always come on whenever we ask. We really appreciate that. And you lay it out there playing for us. I appreciate that as well. I wish you a happy Turkey Day and a winter break and all that, many good things. And I can't wait to see you at the Winter Nationals.
Hey, ditto to you and all the fans. And, Joe, thank you. And your fans probably don't think about it because it's just good content that they always go to. But you work your butt off. You have great questions. You're professional at what you do. I love listening to you at the banquet. Thank you for the hours of entertainment for the sport.
No, thank you for saying that, Jack. I love what I do. Being included in the banquet this year was a kind of a shock. I found out the week in advance that I was going to be presenting, and I was happy to do it, and I got a lot of positive feedback. And, that event, the banquet, right, just kind of saying goodbye to everybody that you've watched, like, spill their blood practically all year long. It's one of my favorite things. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and can't wait till early next year, and we get to do it all over again.
It's like less than 80 days away, baby. Jack, thank you so much.
All the best. Bye.
Thank you, Jack. Jack Beckman with us here on WFO Radio Podcast. Said some kind things at the end there, and I appreciate it. Look, this thing that is NHRA drag racing is still really kind of small compared to other big sports. That's why when Steve Torrance and Cam Ferret get into a beef, it's a little awkward because you know them both. It's not like they're total strangers, at least those of us that work in the community. They're not strangers at all. These are people that you see them fight and struggle and claw, and you wish the best, and you want to help as best as you can. At least I do. There's nobody I don't want to help. I want to help them be as well-known and personable and their best selves. And it's very challenging. So when Jack says something nice like that, I really appreciate it. Because, look at him. He's a very intelligent person. He goes out there, he does his best driving a funny car, finishes second. He's a champ, he's a sportsman racer. He pays attention to all categories. He cares about all categories and is friends with all people. Beckman, he's friends with all people. Kind to dogs. He's kind to dogs and children. I know I'm building it up a little bit. You get what I'm saying. He tries to be a positive energy. He'll come down to our Parade of Champions on the return road with our Lucas Oil Series racers. If he's available there, he comes down. He shakes all their hands. He says hello. He understands that by wearing that fire suit of a Nitro driver, that it carries something with it. And that sportsman racers, like, wow, you guys care about what we do? And the answer is yes. And I respect that. I respect the heck out of it. And he'll answer any questions, that's for sure, and give you an analytical, deep thinking answer, which I also appreciate. Happy Thanksgiving, Jack. And all you listeners and all you fans of Don Schumacher Racing, share this show. Tell your friends, subscribe, and never miss one, because we are going to continue right through the winter break. And it's because of the great sponsors that I told you about at the start of the show. And, I like to name check them. Just because it's time for you to get Christmas gifts now. And I know you're stressing. And RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. You just call him and be like, I got 6 guys, and I want them all to get this stuff. And, he's going to charge you. But that's the whole deal. The holiday packs, baby. Holiday packs. Samtech.edu. First of all, RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. 817-924-6821. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. It's not too late to go back and listen to the Factory Stock podcast and get up on Samtech.edu Factory Stock Showdown for 2020. Total Seal piston rings, probably supplying a lot of the rings for those Factory Stock Showdown cars. From Formula One to IndyCar to Nitro to your car, Total Seal makes the rings. Motorcycles, go-karts, pistons, air compressors, they do anything that has a piston. They make the piston ring. What a great business. Made in America. Gotta love it. Gotta love that Matt Hartford and those guys have bought in, and they've got the renewed energy that we were talking about out there on the Ignition Show. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure, FrankHawley.com, MagicDryUS.com, Samtech, Total Seal, Frank Hawley, Magic Dry, and of course Marvin Rodak. Plus, Drag Racing Edge magazine. That's a nice little thing for the drag racing fan. Get them a subscription to Drag Racing Edge magazine. And of course, EV3 Drag Racing for your mobile device. The WFO League continues on. Our WFO Fantasy League. Mr. Fantasy NASCAR won the whole deal, got his name on the trophy. You got to listen to the Ignition Show for that kind of stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, more interviews to come. WFO, everybody. Stay tuned.
WFO!
The views and opinions of the hosts, guests, or callers do not necessarily reflect that of the station ownership, advertisers, or agencies.
I love WFO radio.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, engine builders, Total Seal piston rings are the leader in ring seal technology, and they go out of their way to help their customers and will make custom sets for any specific piston you might have. Customer service, top notch. Made in America? Absolutely. They're located in Phoenix, Arizona, and they've got everything it takes to develop the world's best piston rings. Give them a call at 800-874-2753 or go to TotalSeal.com.
Hey, this is Scott Palmer, driver of the NHRA Cat Spot Litter Top Fuel Dragster. Do you have a cat? Go to catspotlitter.com, order it today. All natural product, made out of coconuts, 100% biodegradable. All you NHRA fan, cat owners, support our team. Go to catspotlitter.com.
You've been listening to WFO Radio for a long time now, and you hear these racers all talking about how much they spend, how much they travel, how hard they work, all to accelerate really, really quickly. Well, Frank Hawley and Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School has figured a way for you to do it at a fraction of the price, the work, the effort, the time. It is a fun experience. It's called the Dragster Adventure. Go to frankhawley.com and investigate. No ride along. You drive it. You are the driver. It's called the Dragster Adventure. Go to frankhawley.com to find out more and tell them you heard it on WFO.
WFO Radio is brought to you in part by Extreme Velocity 3 Drag Racing. Download for your mobile device. Win your way on the show. WFO.
This is WFO Radio.